welcome to the Love Fashionably podcast. I'm so excited that you are joining me again this week. If you are looking around and like, why is there a random cupcake sitting next to you? I am so excited. I am filming this a little early, but this will go live on February the 17th, 2025. And on February the 19th of 2024 was the very first episode of the Love Fashionably podcast. So 1 year to us, yay! I'm so excited that you have been joining me along on this ride. It's been a little crazy, I feel like, for me at times, still trying to find my footing in this podcast world and what that looks like for me. So I'm excited that you are here. And if you've been joining me from the beginning, then go you deserve the cupcake more than me. But gonna kind of be a little reminiscent tonight and just kind of talk and just share a few things that I've been thinking about as I think about the past year and how it's kind of changed me, and what, again, if this is your first time ever checking out, you picked a good one, because we'll kind of share a little bit again of what the vision is for this podcast and where I hope to see us going. And I think I have my mic kind of, if you watch, it is slowly moving. It's not just me. There's not a ghost or anything here. It just kind of has a mind of its own today. So when I was kind of thinking and putting my thoughts together, the Lord reminded me of the very first thing that I remember him telling me. I can remember it very vividly. It was the first thing that he ever told me, and writing it down in my Bible. And I was reading through Exodus and the children of Israel, and as they were getting ready to move forward, every time they would get ready to move forward, God would sit them down and would remind them of all the ways that he had been faithful to them. And it was like the Lord had said that in order for you to move forward, you have to remember the past. And so that's what we're going to do a little bit just here tonight. So kind of, if you're like, what is Love Fashionably? So the name was birthed out of a blog idea, a fashion blog. So I love fashion. We've kind of talked about that here. My three favorite things are faith, fashion, and football. And I was doing a blog, and it was actually called that. And I wanted to rebrand myself. And so I was thinking of names and just kind of thinking of, like, I love hearts. Like, I have this heart pendant that I always wear. So, like, and I'm, like, hopeless romantic. I love all the Hallmark things. So, like, I was thinking, like, love, how can we play on those type things? And then with fashion. And so the name Love Fashionably, as I was kind of Googling and playing with it, I felt like the Lord just kind of put it all together as one word. I know a lot of people, you think separate, but it was, in my mind, kind of always just one thing. And that was that loving God, loving ourselves, loving others should be fashionable, and fashionable is just something that's trendy, something that's popular. And so loving should be fashionable, and you can love fashion as well. As a woman of God, you can be fashionable. We don't have to be. I think that's kind of like this really old mindset. But like for me, growing up when I was in church, you always felt like you had to be like frumpy almost. Like you couldn't like show your style or whatever. But kind of just showing it all. Like you can be fashionable, you can be and do it conservatively in a way that is still modest and honorable to yourself, and to God. And so I feel like, the way I dress and represent myself is a representation of me. It represents, my relationship with God, but it also, portrays the people around me, I feel like too. Your family name. So, or if you're married, your husband, you're carrying that kind of responsibility too, what you put out there. So that's kind of how all of that came to be. So I do have an Instagram fashion blog, if you will, that I like to do throughout the week. So you can always follow me there on Instagram. It's Love Fashionably, and then there's an underscore at the end, because somebody had taken my name. And I want you to know they haven't posted since like 2014. But I can't petition for the name because they haven't deleted their account yet. I still check. But if they ever delete it, I'll let you know when we can get rid of the underscore at the end. So that's why it's there. But kind of when I was thinking about the podcast, I knew I wanted to keep the same name. It's the brand. It's my brand. It's me. I've kind of always kind of envisioned that Love Fashionably would just be more than just pictures on about fashion. I kind of have this logo in mind. It's not even the logo that's for this podcast. It's just something not quite there yet, but when I've always envisioned it and seen it, I've seen it like on shirts and, hats and maybe even a mug one day. I don't know. We'll see, but where this all goes. But for the podcast, I knew I didn't want to just sit here and talk fashion. I couldn't do that. I'm not the type of person to just do that. I can barely do it enough on my Instagram. And I knew I wanted it to be but to keep it real and to keep it about me. And so for me, the biggest thing is I like, which we talked about in the very first episode, I like my box. I like to live where I'm comfortable. And I've talked with some of you that watch this, and I know that you do too. You like your little box. You like when things fit in it. It fits very nicely. We're able to live our lives. We're able to be in peace. We're able to go about that. But God didn't call us to live in a box. He's called us to break out of the box and to do different things for Him. And so I knew that doing this podcast would be something to break me out of the box, and I just had to trust and walk in obedience for that. And so that kind of is kind of what I've hoped for that the podcast would be for you. I've got my notes here to kind of keep me on track because I had a lot of things. So, but I hope that it kind of challenges you maybe to get out of the box physically, to do something that God is calling you to do in obedience, maybe out there in the world, at your job, at your church, or even the way that we think about something, to kind of break out of an old mindset or to think about something in a new way. We know that I talk about that a lot here, try to bring like a new perspective. So, as we kind of go through this marked 1 year journey, here's some things that I have learned and the way that it has challenged me. So the first thing is that God can use, and this is for you too. So this is not like, hey, this only applies to me. No, this can apply to you too. And I do think that that's what the Lord is wanting you to do. To look at those areas of your life that where you are very comfortable in your box, and He's wanting to kind of push you again to step out. Maybe you've done it once before in your life, and then you've kind of gotten comfortable at where you're at, and you're like, I'm in a good spot. I don't want to do that again. But maybe He's calling you. You're starting to feel that tug on your heart to step out again. And that's where it was for me for a year ago. So He can use anyone, and you don't have to feel ready. So I've been very honest over this past year that I've never felt ready to be a podcaster, but I've been here doing it. So, and He has been faithful to always give me the words to say, and never felt like it was coming from a place of emptiness, but a place of fullness. And it wasn't that I felt ready, but that I was just acting in obedience. And so even, sometimes you might feel not ready. Maybe you feel empty. Maybe you just feel drained. I've come in here at times because life, I work a full-time job. I work with kids. If some of you that watch, I've told you there has been a lot going on at my district. I've shared some on my Instagram story about, because it's not quiet, it's very public, things that were happening over the past few weeks. There's been a lot. So sometimes I feel like I don't have it together, like I'm empty, but God can still use you in those moments. It's not I have to be perfect. I have to feel like I have it all together and then I can do this for Him. It's never been like that. You have to just, when He says it, be obedient. It has also pushed me out of my box, not just here within the podcast, but at my church to kind of step out again. For a long time, I was in a ministry. I was helping with students for a while, and then that disappeared, and I got in my box. I got comfortable, and maybe that's your story too. And then all of a sudden, God was like, nope, it's time and to step back out again. And I did, and it has been very, very rewarding. That was a hard word to say for some reason. But it's been a lot of fun. So it's pushed me out, not just here, but outside of here. And again, that's the goal that I want for you too. I still don't feel like I know what I'm doing. I still feel very, unsure. I still don't really know. Like there's so many times, which I've told some of you, I wanted to quit and give up. I'm like, okay, I think I'm done. I'm ready to stop. And then every time I feel like that, I meet somebody, one of you out there, and you offer a word of encouragement and are like, I'm still watching, or I will like your podcast, or I watch your podcast. And that is enough for me to come back in and sit back down and do it all over again, because I've always just thought if I could do it just for one, it doesn't have to be for a lot, but if I can do it for one, then that would be enough. And so, it's also taught me to kind of rely on my own, not my own strength, but my own faith in God again. So, I think a lot of times when we go to church or we're around a group of people that maybe your friends, and sometimes you tend to rely on their faith, their strength, their relationship with God, and you kind of form your identity into that. Maybe it's like a certain ministry that you're a part of. Maybe it's a certain thing you do for God. Maybe it's your church again or something, and you kind of put your faith there, where God wants to have that individual relationship with all of us, and he doesn't want it to be a group thing. It's supposed to be an individual thing. Yes, as a group, we can do great and mighty things together, and he does not want us to be isolated. That is something, he says, don't neglect the meeting together, like so many do. He wants you to still do those things, but also to kind of stand on your own 2 feet, have your own relationship with God, have your own faith in him, and to trust in that. And so, let's see, I still don't like looking at the camera from this side. I don't like watching it either. So once I'm finished filming, I'm like, okay, done with it. Like, I can't go back and watch it. I tried in the beginning, and I would turn the volume all the way down and try to watch it. I don't like to watch myself. Even I know it's so funny. When I post something on my social media, I post it and I don't go back and look at it. I do what I have to do, and then I'm done with it. Maybe I'll get over that at some point, but we're still not there yet. It's still a process. We're still on our road. But let's see if there's anything else I wanted to say. I guess just the end to kind of think about it is to do things that challenge you. And that's not something that's easy. That's not something that sounds fun even, that comes easy, that you're like, okay, yes, I'm going to go do this new thing and I'm going to get out of my comfort zone. It's really scary. And I've done that a lot over the past year. I've really pushed myself to do some things that are different, to step out, even when I didn't know what it looked like, or what it would be on the other side. I just knew that I was supposed to do it. I just knew that I needed to be obedient in those different areas. And everything's worked out fine. It's been great on the other side. So I have enjoyed it in trying all of these new things. So last month, so it's probably almost been a month, someone recently asked me, why did you start it? And so I was thinking about it, and the way that I explained it to them was that you have the analogy of a river versus a lake. In that, are you going to be stagnant? are you going to be life-giving? And so like, at the lake, it's just there. It's very pretty. It's something you can enjoy. I'm sure we've all had those, but a river is something that flows and there's always new water that's coming through. And that's kind of what I felt like my life had become, as I was more of a lake versus a river. And I was tired of being that. I was just in this place where I felt stuck and I didn't want to be there any longer. I wanted that newness, that freshness from God when he's constantly pouring into you and you kind of feel like, because you're always giving out. I wanted to feel that again. It's very rewarding and satisfying and scary, but it's a lot of fun because you know that the reward that it'll bring you. So just to kind of finish up again, kind of another thought, and I hadn't shared this yet. So this is one of my favorite verses. It's Hebrews 10:35 and 36. And it says, "So do not throw away this confident trust in the Lord. Remember the great reward it brings you. Patient endurance is what you need now, so that you will continue to do God's will. Then you will receive all that he has promised." And I've always loved that because I've always had the idea, that I'm a very patient person. I feel like God's given me a great amount of faith. And so that patient endurance is what you need now so that you can continue to do God's will. And I remember reading this and thinking, then you will receive all that he has promised. And I was like, okay, what is all that he has promised? What does that look like? And I remember asking him one day, and he led me to James 1:3 and 4. "For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow, for when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing." So the promise that you will receive, I think when we hear that, a lot of the times when we think promise, we think of all of these earthly things this side of heaven that God is going to give us, whether that be a relationship, a house, a car, money, a nice job, comfortable things, a dog for some of you. But we want all of these comfortable things. And that's what we hear when we read Hebrews 10. Okay, so I need patient endurance, and then I'm going to do God's will, and then I'm going to get what he's supposed to give me. But when you add it with James 1, he's like, so yes, your faith's going to be tested. Your endurance is going to have a chance to grow. Because when your endurance grows, you'll be perfect and complete. And what do you need? Nothing. Why don't you need anything? I remember asking, and he is like, because you would have me. And so when it all comes down to it, that is the goal for each of us, for all of our lives. We're a river here at Love Fashionably, the Love Fashionably River. We're a lazy river, I feel like right now, just slow going, real slow, not very fast and everything. But we'll see what this ride takes us on for this next year. I had brought my pink Edgar's cupcake. If you're not from Alabama and you don't have an Edgar's, I'm really sorry because these things are amazing. I've been looking at this in my fridge all day, so I was super excited to have an excuse to go get this. And I put a little candle in there. Don't worry, I'm not going to sing happy birthday. And I'm not going to light it because I was telling you in the studio, I bought these candles for my birthday. And if you saw, I posted something for my birthday on Instagram. And when I went to blow it out, like a spark flew out and it tried to burn my, because they're sparkling candles, not just the normal, because who wants to be normal, right? But it burned my fur placemat. So we're not going to do that. There's nice stuff here, hairspray, furniture, microphone. That would have been terrible. But I will say this. Thank you again if you have listened to even 1 minute of our podcast here, for all of your likes, comments, saves, your kind words out in public. Again, they mean so much more than you could ever know. And I do ask, if I can ask one thing, that would be it, that you would continue to do that for me for this next year. And let's see where it takes us. And here is to year 2.